thanks for coming back. You tolerated the Australian accent?
Yes.
If it's okay with you, I would like to start today by reviewing what we've found out from that questionnaire that we got you to fill in, the QoL.BD. And I've got your results here. What I've done there is I've just averaged across the 4 items in each domain and made a summary statement, low, okay, high, for what you've told us is going on in those domains. And I think it'd be quite useful to review. I've had a look at it and now I just want to explore a couple of things with you. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah, sure.
So what strikes me immediately is there are many areas of dissatisfaction in your life, physical, leisure, social. And in a way, obviously, that's bad news for you, but good news for me, because we've got lots of strategies that are relevant to those areas. So I think you've sort of come to the right place. We know a lot about helping people behaviourally with these sorts of issues.
Okay. I mean, I think it's quite accurate. I mean, there's certain areas that I think I'm not that satisfied with. But I don't really understand the connection to bipolar disorder as an illness with these.
Oh, okay. Thanks for raising that. I work in this world so often I sometimes forget that link may not be so obvious.
It's not. It doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can I do a bit of explaining?
Yeah.
So for someone with bipolar disorder, we now, I think, better understand that by keeping well in multiple areas that are meaningful to you, this builds your resilience and makes it less likely you will have a relapse of your disorder. It's what we call in psychology a vulnerability stress model, that the disorder is actually an interaction between your strengths and your vulnerabilities and how life then treats you and how you engage with life. So the more we strengthen your functioning and improve your quality of life across all these areas, especially the ones you're telling us are meaningful to you, then the more we think we can control or postpone future episodes of disorder. And I know you've had many episodes of disorder. Yeah. But I suppose just saying one more thing about this, even if you didn't have bipolar disorder, it would be my view that you deserve to have good quality of life. It's kind of important.
Yeah.
So is that a satisfactory? Anyway, we'll talk more about that later.
Okay.
One of the things that I do note is there are some marked strengths. So in terms of finances and independence, you're telling us those areas are going fine. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Well, my husband's a lawyer, so he has a good income, and so financially we're quite comfortable. I'm at home, and I don't think it's that relevant, but I do all the finance, so I do his billing, and he leaves that accounting part to me. And then we live in the country, but I have a vehicle, so I can get around, and so there's not any issue getting back and forth to wherever. So those are satisfactory to me.
Okay. So just to be clear, so your husband, I think you said last time, he's a barrister actually.
Yeah.
So he's doing sort of lots of ad hoc work.
Yeah.
Comes in, work goes, and you look after all the finances related to that. And you mentioned last time you've got, I think it's 4 children, adolescents, early adult.
Yeah.
And you're primarily responsible for looking after them.
Yes.
He's out and travels.
My husband works outside the home, and then I sort of do the inside part. Yeah.
And so you run the house as well.
And then,
So this speaks of great problem-solving abilities that you must have. You're dealing with a wide range of challenges all the time, helping out. I imagine your husband might ring up and say, "Has that invoice been sent?" Or
there's a lot of details to keep track of, and then there's 4 children who aren't children anymore, but that are off to school and university. So
these are strengths of yours, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess.
Which and one of our aims will be to bring those strengths to you looking after yourself in terms of your bipolar disorder and working on your quality of life in these areas. We'll talk further about that a bit later.
Okay.
And then there's a cluster of things where there's some dissatisfaction. I'd like to dig down a bit here in the physical, leisure, social, mood aspects of your life. This is actually a common sort of constellation of problems in BD. Can you tell me a bit more about how those areas are going for you?
Well, I guess a year ago, I used to be very involved. I played tennis quite a bit, and I played probably 2-3 times a week. And then I guess a year or so ago, I started to. I didn't play quite as often, and I was involved in organizing, tennis socials and ladders and things. And I guess over the course of the last few months, just haven't participated as much.
So you were very big in organising things, again, problem solving, thinking through, taking responsibility for other people.
Yeah.
But then you've somehow backed off over time. And so this has led to some dissatisfactions in all these areas of your life.
Yeah, I don't see some of the people that I used to see quite regularly.
Yeah. It's interesting that you describe this in your life, because it's actually a very common, it's sort of a bit of a negative spiral that we often see with the low mood that often happens in bipolar disorder, where people will feel that they don't have the energy or the oomph to go and do something that was previously very pleasurable.
Yeah.
They back off, and there's sort of multiple consequences of backing off. You lose the social contact, you start to feel a bit tireder, your mood can descend. So that sort of spiral is one of the very things that we'll be looking at in terms of modifying your behaviour to try and improve your quality of life in all these areas. It's the sort of, sometimes people think these are small decisions like not to play tennis this week that actually turn out to have a very big effect and might actually have some sort of part to play in some very serious episodes of mood disorder. So we'll have a look at that.
Yeah, I mean that starts to make quite a bit of sense, actually. And so have you worked with people a lot with bipolar disorder and then using sort of these, with the same kind of strategy?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I personally have quite a bit of experience with this, but I just want to underline that it's not just my clinical experience using these sorts of techniques. This is really where the science is up to now. I know you have a science background. You might be interested to hear that this is standard practice now for the treatment of bipolar disorder.
And you've worked with people with bipolar disorder? Okay.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But you can test my credentials as we go. I also see a marked contrast between, we were mentioning your strengths before. I called them problem-solving strengths. I think you sort of minimised them a bit, but in terms of the finances and the independence. And that contrasts very strongly with the very low score you've given us in terms of self-esteem. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Well, I think I've had a lot of difficulty controlling the illness, and I don't particularly feel very positive about that. I feel quite hopeless, I think, about being able to do that. I don't think I'm much of a role model for my children and much of an example, because I'm not, I may manage some things, but I think the important things I'm not managing well, at least not from myself. So I see myself as fairly inept and yeah.
So you're your own harshest critic at the moment, yeah? You pick on yourself a fair bit. What sorts of things in life trigger this sort of thinking?
Well, I guess it probably sounds trivial, but the house is in absolute disarray, complete pigsty, actually, and it just gets worse. And so my husband, he's out, and all the kids are out, and then I wake up every morning seeing this, and it just seems to get to be a bigger and bigger challenge, and I can't, it seems insurmountable, so I just go back to bed, and then I wake up the next day with the same issue. So it seems stupid, but it's an issue, I think that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem stupid to me at all. I know, I can easily imagine how that feels, to think I should have a clean house. It's my responsibility to get it clean. to not have the energy or motivation to do it and then be confronted by it all day, every day.
And it's not an intellectual challenge, it's just I can't, I know how to do it, but I just don't.
You just can't get yourself going. You know what, I think we've just nailed the first piece of work we need to do. First piece of work we need to do is get your house clean.
Is this typically part of a bipolar treatment plan, to get a house clean?
Yeah. You know why it's part of a bipolar treatment plan is because it's important to you. It really matters to you. It has a huge impact on your well-being, and I'm guessing it probably correlates with previous episodes of depression. And I'm guessing, you haven't said anything like this, but reading between the lines, I wouldn't be surprised when you've gone hypomanic before, the house is spotless. So it turns out that the house is actually really important to start work.
Yeah, it's where I spend most of my time.
Yeah, exactly. Can we spend a minute starting to do this work? Top of my head, you should get a house cleaner. We're just brainstorming here. Why don't you get a house cleaner to break the back of this, then you keep it clean from then on?
I've thought about it, and I've talked to my husband, and he's never been comfortable with having someone else come in and clean the house, and so we've talked about it a couple times, but I just don't like to push the issue. So, and he's doing his thing, and it's my responsibility for the house, so I feel like it's something that I could do on my own. I haven't been very successful at it lately, but so I just, that hasn't been something that I've broached again at all.
So can we take this a step further? Little game. What if a friend of yours was in a similar position? You know where I'm going with this. Imagine a friend of yours who suffers from depression, and she has this problem where she can't get the house clean, and it can become very overwhelming, and it in fact becomes part of her disorder, this inactivity and the picking on herself and da-da-da. But she tells you, I can't get a house cleaner because I've already raised it once with my husband and he said, I don't like the idea. What advice would you give your friend?
Well, I'd probably tell her that it makes sense to get, it's logical to get someone in to at least start with the house cleaning, I guess, and that I'd be there if she needs some support to be able to, talk about how she's going to approach her husband, and then collect her courage and try to discuss it.
Exactly right. And I can see why you're so effective at problem solving everyone else's problems, because not only have you said the exact words that I would advise, but the tone in which you would speak to your friend is very supportive and very clear and encouraging, and we're going to move towards a position where you can have that assertive discussion with your husband. And in here is one of the places where we can practice those skills. So I would look forward to working in that way with you.
Okay, I guess so.